What is mindfulness? It's closer than we think, but we often ignore it. We forget who we really are. We tune out. In this talk, Dr. Kabat-Zinn uses the analogy of the cave to discuss the meaning of mindfulness and why past abuse holds us back from being mindful. Dr. Kabat-Zinn is the director of the Stress Reduction Clinic and Center for Mindfulness at the University of Massachusetts Medical School.
Mindfulness really is miraculous. It's miraculous because we're all miraculous. This miraculous quality, the potential we all carry at all times, is in fact infinitely close to us at all times and infinitely available to us. And yet, sadly, it can be easily forgotten, overlooked, or ignored, and the consequences of this ignoring are vast and deep and ultimately very unhealthy, both for ourselves and for the entire society in which we live and work and contribute our energies. You might say that ignoring leads to a certain kind of ignorance that can cloud our lives for long periods of time. We may forget who we actually are. We may lose touch with our more golden qualities. We may lose touch with our heart and with our path in life. That is, the one that's ours to walk, but requires a commitment to live outside the shadows of Plato's dream cave world. In the Republic, there are people who are chained inside a cave, and they are basically looking at a wall. And there are reflections on the wall from light far out behind them. And they have been in the cave for so long that they believe that those reflections are the world. And so they make up a whole world around these shadows that are dancing on the walls of the cave. And one person manages to escape and go outside the cave and discover that there's a whole world of light and of vitality and far beyond shadows. The shadows disappear and goes back to tell the others in the cave. They refuse to believe it. So the point being that we can get caught up in delusory states where we actually believe that the world is a certain way and we become prisoners of our own thinking. The major drawback of that is that you're stuck. You're enslaved in some way by your own lack of awareness of the full range of what it means to be human. This losing touch usually brings one thing when it happens over and over again, and that one thing is unhappiness, because it cuts us off from ourselves and from others. It isolates us, and it clouds our view. The question comes up sometimes, is it ever healthy to try to escape from reality or to tune out the world? And I think the answer is that yes, sometimes it is. And who is it for any person to judge any other person? There are all sorts of instances when children are abused, and they figure out their own ways to deal with that horror, with that nightmare. And a lot of them have to do with disassociation, with tuning out, with escape. And it's a mechanism for survival when your whole world is gone mad and insane and is a complete collapse of trust and any kind of validation of human empathy and compassion. And so we often see people who come to the clinic who've had that kind of childhood. There is, I think, all sorts of place for doing the best you can, and sometimes denial in certain situations, or sometimes walling yourself off. Sometimes it gets so bad that people just split off different personalities. So one personality is there for the abuse, and then the rest are like hanging out someplace else. And it creates all sorts of psychological problems, of course. But you're talking about basic survival mechanisms. But there comes a time, I think, in life where healing becomes extremely important from various traumas that may not be as bad as sexual abuse or physical abuse of children, but nevertheless, hardly anybody ever gets through the first 30 years of life without some major traumas, some major betrayals, some major grief of one kind or another, even if we're unaware of it. And so the question is it sometimes just fine to hold the ignorance is bliss position and never mind, sort of just let me escape and have a good time and deny that anything's the matter? And I think that there's a place for that, but I think that ultimately, if there's a great deal of pathology lying underneath, it's not a formula for ultimate healing or for living a successful or a happy life to not pay attention to it, that kind of poison will out. It will out sooner or later.
Thanks for listening to that excerpt. A full version of this talk is available at the link below this video. This talk is about 6 hours long, and it covers different techniques for staying in the moment, including several guided meditations. Again, it's at the link below this video. Thanks for listening, and all the best.